Welcome to the Musar Torah podcast for Parshas Terumah. Join us as we explore the weekly Parsha, uncovering valuable insights and striving to become the best versions of ourselves through Musar teachings. Our Parsha begins with one of the most beautiful mitzvos in the Torah, the commandment to take up a collection for building the Mishkan. There's something peculiar about how the Torah introduces this mitzvah. In just the first 3 psukim, the word Terumah, offering, appears 3 different times. Vayadaber Hashem el Moshe Lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael v'yikchu li truma me'ez kol ish asher yidavenu libo tikchu es trumasi v'zos ha-truma asher tikchu me'itam. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and let them take for me a truma from every person whose heart inspires him. You shall take my truma, and this is the truma that you shall take from them." 3 times the word appears. But why is that? Rashi notices this repetition and explains that there weren't just one, but 3 separate collections being referenced here. 1, the head tax of 1 beka from which the sockets for the Mishkan were made. 2, the head tax of 1 beka for the purchase of communal karbanos. And 3, the voluntary donation according to each person's generosity for the actual Mishkan. But here's where things get interesting. The Hamaral in Gur Aryeh asks a fundamental question. Why does the Torah allude to those first 2 collections here? Our Parsha is dealing specifically with the fundraising campaign for building the Mishkan. That's clearly the voluntary discretionary donation. The other 2 collections, those obligatory head taxes, those happen later in the Torah. Why mention them now? The Maharal offers a logical explanation. Although the Torah presents them later, those 2 obligatory collections actually took place before the Mishkan fundraising campaign. Why would they be done first? Because they were mandatory while the Mishkan donation was voluntary. It stands to reason that the obligatory ones would come first. Otherwise, you could wind up in a situation where someone gets so excited about the Mishkan project that they have donated everything that they have to this discretionary campaign. This will leave them with nothing to fulfill their actual obligations. Now, Rav Yecheskel Weinfeld Shlita has some serious questions regarding the Maharal's answer. First, the order of the Parshios in the Torah doesn't give us this impression at all. It seems to suggest that the Mishkan collections came first, and then everything else. And then there's the even more challenging question. There were no communal korbanos before the building of the Mishkan. The entire sacrificial system depended on having the Mishkan in place. How could those collections for korbanos have come before the Mishkan was even built? These questions lead Rav Weinfeld to a completely different understanding, one that transforms how we view our entire service of Hashem. Although the discretionary Mishkan donation did indeed come first chronologically, the Torah is teaching us something profound by mentioning all 3 collections together. The Torah is telling us that discretionary actions, the things we are naturally moved and excited to do, cannot be the be-all and end-all of our religious lives. Think about it. We all have areas of avodas Hashem that speak to us, that inspire us, that get us excited. Maybe it's chesed projects. Maybe it's intense Torah study. Maybe it's the beautiful tefillah or inspiring Shabbosos. Those are our Mishkan donations, the areas where our hearts naturally move us to give. Alongside these discretionary areas, there must be also obligations, the things we are commanded to do even when we don't feel particularly inspired. These 2 elements, the voluntary and obligatory, must work together to create a complete, well-rounded avodas Hashem. Here is why this balance is so crucial. If we only had discretionary mitzvos, only the things that inspire us, our spiritual lives would be entirely dependent on our feelings. When we feel inspired, we'd be on fire. When we don't feel it, we'd have nothing. Our relationship with Hashem would be subject to the whims of our emotions and circumstances. On the other hand, if we only had obligations without any room for voluntary expression, our avodas Hashem would become mechanical and lifeless. We'd be going through the motions without any personal connection or passion. The Torah is teaching us that we need both. We need the passion and excitement of the voluntary Mishkan donation. However, we also need the steady foundation of obligation, the consistent practice that doesn't depend on how we feel on any given day. The discretionary inspires us and keeps our relationship with Hashem vibrant. The obligatory grounds us and ensures consistency even when inspiration is lacking. Together, they create something greater than either of them could achieve alone. How does this apply to our own lives? We each need to look at our own avodas Hashem and ask ourselves, do I have both elements? Are there areas where we are passionate and excited, our personal Mishkan projects, where we naturally want to give more? That's wonderful, and we should nurture that enthusiasm. However, are we also maintaining our basic obligation, even when we're not feeling particularly inspired? Are we showing up for davening when it feels routine? Are we being careful with our speech, even when it's hard? Are we keeping our learning schedule, even when we'd rather be doing something else? The key is recognizing that both are necessary. Our passionate projects shouldn't come at the expense of our fundamental obligations. Our obligations shouldn't suffocate the areas where we naturally want to give more. This week, let's take inventory. Identify one area where we are naturally passionate, our Mishkan donation. Then identify one area of basic obligation that we've been letting slide. Commit to maintaining both. Continue nurturing your passion, but also strengthen your commitment to that obligation, even when you don't feel like it. Remember, the Torah didn't separate these three collections into different parshios. It mentioned all three together to teach us that they all belong together in creating a complete avodas Hashem. This has been the Musar Torah podcast. Until next time, may we all find the balance between passion and obligation, between inspiration and consistency, between giving from the heart and fulfilling what is required of us. Have a good Shabbos.